All right, if you're on Twitter, you likely heard the outlandish story of an elephant reportedly trampling an Indian woman to death, only to show up to her funeral and stomp on her again. Soon after, some Twitter users speculated that the woman was helping poachers kill the elephant's babies, and that's why she was trampled. So people quickly made comical memes siding with the elephant. They were endless, and it made for a lot of fodder. And I will say, I even laughed at a lot of these myself. But according to Snopes, there is no actual evidence or reporting that the woman who was killed was working with poachers or harassing the elephant. The real story is likely much more complicated than that. And so I want to get into that to talk about these beautiful, magical creatures. Joining me now from Dakar, Senegal is Abby Sen. She's assistant professor of conservation, social science at Clemson University. Thank you so much for being here, Abby. Again, I just want to say there's no reporting or evidence that the woman was killed because she was harassing the elephant or helping poachers kill this baby. But talk to us about the impact that poachers are having on elephant populations in India and Asia, and how this could potentially be prompting aggressive behavior from elephants towards humans.
Yeah, thank you, Tiffany, for having me. And a lot of my work actually focuses on Africa, but issues are somehow related, right, between Africa and India. So everything that I say in Africa can also be applicable in India. But if I may, before I even answer that questions around poaching and the aggressiveness of the elephant, right? I just want to, and I'll get to that question a little bit, but it's important to push back on some of the common misperception around wildlife poaching, right? Especially in Africa, right? Because first of all, the vast majority of Africans who are actually arrested or even killed over accusation of poaching are not killing elephants, right? Or any of these iconic megafauna that we've come to love. The vast majority of those ones are traditional hunters who are arrested over small to medium game meats that are important for their food security, right? So to answer your questions, are elephants getting more aggressive because of poaching? Yes, they are, right? But poaching is by far not the main reason, or not the main or only reason why elephants are getting more aggressive today. It's also because they're confined into smaller spaces and having to share more space with humans, right? They're major drivers, for example, of land use changes that are transforming a lot of their natural habitats into agricultural production, especially in Africa. They're pushing them closer and closer into human territories and vice versa, right? Humans are now increasingly pushed into dangerous wildlife territory.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's interesting because I saw your tweet, you pointed this out. You and other Twitter users pointed out that based on this woman's location, she was likely Adivasi, which is an indigenous group in India, and they face poverty and displacement in India that has pushed them closer to natural wildlife habitats, which is what you were talking about. But it's this combination of things, right? So you talked about climate change and how that's impacting people, poachers, how that's impacting animals and our interaction with them. I'm just curious because elephants are so beautiful. They're such beautiful animals, and they stay together for life, and they have memories, and they remember things. So it's so awful to see them hurt. What exactly is ivory? They're being killed for their tusk, made of ivory. What is that being used for, and where is it being traded that there's even an economic demand for this kind of ivory? And maybe that's how we stop this kind of thing, to not buy products with ivory in it. I don't know the solution. Your thoughts?
Yeah, so absolutely. And again, this goes back to the question around poaching, right? Ivory trade is definitely an issue, right? A big issue for it. A lot of the market, and I don't want to misreport here because there is still a lot of reports that are being unfolded around ivory trades. A lot of it, a big market is in Asia. There's also a big market in the U.S. actually, right? Even though we often report the markets that are in Asia, but the U.S. is also a big market for ivory trading, right? But in order, you talked about how can we save, right, these elephants, right, that we've all come to love. And I think that oftentimes the voices that are most missing within these conversations are actually the indigenous people, right? The local communities that are coexisting with wildlife, right? These are the people that have spent millenniums protecting these wildlife, right? But then today they're the same one who are being pushed off those lands, one for conservation policies, right? And two for agricultural production as well, which a lot of times is multinational corporations, agricultural corporations are buying huge tracts of land for agricultural production, pushing indigenous people off their land and pushing wildlife off their land, right? So we can talk about agriculture. Definitely. Yes, we can talk about it, but we also have to talk about the indigenous people. And the Adivasi women in India was a perfect example of people who are actually bearing the brunt of protecting wildlife, but then their voices are never heard within these larger conversations.